just thought we were the king and queen of the whole world. Well, I had a really great childhood. I don't think anybody could ask for a better one. We tried to live like Dad, well, to start with, within our means, to treat other people like you want them to treat you, and to just enjoy life and enjoy your time and be friends with everybody. This is how we used to deliver milk. Well, that's where Arlen got that Swede dairy. That's not a very good picture, but from 1916, this could be my mother. I mean, it looks just like her. If I put that next to in her picture book, people would just think it's a picture of her. This is probably one of our last Christmas cards, I think, of my family. There was 8 of us. My dad's family were born in Sweden, and his 3 older siblings were born in Sweden, and then they came to the United States, and then they were farmed over in Wheaton, Minnesota, and then they moved over to North Dakota in the early 1900s. They lived north of town where I grew up. That was the farm that they had. But we never knew any of them. They were all gone before we just had the one grandma on my mom's side. So we never had them, but we had Dad's older sisters and that lived in Velva. So we kind of had siblings there that were part of the family. And the 2 older were born in Sweden, so it was kind of interesting visiting with them some too. So, and my mother's family were all out in Salem, Oregon. And so I know when I was just going to be 6, Mother went out to see her one brother was being shipped off to Germany during World War II. And so I got to go along. I was sick because I was a favorite, but I think it was probably I was the most spoiled or something. But that was a really exciting trip for me at that age. And we got to see her brother off, and he came back safe too, so that was a great miracle. From the 1st to the 3rd grade were probably my best years, and I probably got the best grades because I wasn't such a smarty pants at that stage of the game. And I loved my 1st grade teacher, and she went with one of my cousins for a while, and we thought that would really be neat, but it didn't work out. But she died just a few years ago, and actually Orlin and I went up for her funeral, and it was just kind of nice to go to your 3rd grade teacher's funeral. And she was with one of the Thomases from Minot, and they have the funeral parlor up there. But they were a nice family, and I guess if I'd say she was my favorite teacher of all my teachers was this Miss Thomas. So, and I mean, I liked almost all of my teachers, though. There was a couple I didn't care for, but that's not too many out of all that you have. Well, I was the 3rd child, and Paul was the oldest, and of course he was, I guess, what we always thought of as almost the perfect child. He never got into any mischief. He always did everything like he was supposed to, and he was a nice looking guy, and we had a lot of girlfriends because they were all kind of after Paul. None of them really caught him until years later. And then Kay was my next sibling, and she and I got along really well. We shared a room together for quite a few years, and we went horseback riding. We did a lot of things together. And then I was the next one. And then Mary was next, and she was almost 3 years younger. We were all 2 years apart by a year. And then Mary she was always kind of quiet and stuff. And then Jeannie was the next one, and her and Mary, I can remember watching them sitting in their room playing paper dolls. They just got along so well when they were little kids. And then we ended up getting 2 brothers. Tony, Bill, and Johnny. And by then I was old enough that I wasn't too interested in those little stinkers, but they were pretty sweet little guys. Tony Bill was so darn cute, and Johnny was really cute too. But Tony had just pure white hair. We got movies of him with a little blue shirt and that white hair. They were just so cute. And then we ended up getting another baby sister, Patty, and that was pretty exciting for us at that time. So, but then she passed away young too, so we don't have her anymore either. When we were first on the farm, my dad had a dairy farm, and then during the war, it was hard to, the gas shortage, before that they delivered milk around town, and in a wagon, or a car, station wagon, but as the war got on, there was a shortage of gas, so then he bought a little store on Main Street in Velva, and they called it Swede Dairy, and it was supposed to be a dairy store, but pretty soon he started serving hamburgers, and then he got this wonderful cook, and so they started having meals there, and so it got to be quite a nice restaurant there in town. Well, then alongside was an empty lot, and my older brother Paul and my sister Kay and I, on Saturday night, my dad had this old popcorn maker, and it still is used by the Boy Scouts over the 4th year. But we sold popcorn on Saturday night. One night we made $100. It's 10 cents a bag. We must have sold. I think some of them left tips to us too. I don't remember how long he had this store, but I think he must have, in the early 50s, it was gone. It was still there, but he'd sold it, so. When I was a freshman in high school, that's when I met the love of my life, and we dated all through high school, and he finally volunteered for the draft because you couldn't get a job, because they'd say, at that time they were drafting people, and they'd say, as soon as we get you trained, you're going to get drafted. So he finally just volunteered for the draft, and at that time they gave him a choice between the Army and the Navy, and he chose the Navy because he said he knew he'd always have a bed at night. He was a smart Norwegian, I always tell him. And so he went off to Seattle. And I remember for my birthday, which is in April, I went uptown to get mail at noon, and here was a diamond ring in the mail I got from Orland. He never asked me, he just assumed I would marry him, I guess. And he mailed me a ring in the mail, and he was out to sea. I couldn't even call him and say yes or I love you or anything. The guy that had the jewelry store in Velva, he was kind of a different type of guy. He said, I can tell he wasn't looking at your fingers because the ring barely fit my little finger, so I had to have it made bigger. Every once in a while I'll run into somebody that remembers that day in high school when Betty got her engagement ring, because we'd gone together for pretty much since I was a freshman in high school. We'd met. Him and some Ursa boys crashed a party, and that's how I met him. And my mother just definitely approved of Orland. After Orland, I couldn't have gone with anybody else and made her happy, because she thought he was good to his parents and good to his grandparents, and that's all that mattered. And then when I married Orland, I finally got a grandpa, which I'd never had ever in my life, and that was the old Ole Hansen from Ursa, who was a one-hand carpenter. And he was really the sweetest old man you could ever find. I couldn't have found a better grandpa ever. He had a little metal wrist on his arm, because I said to Orland, how can he be a carpenter with one hand? How do you start a nail with one hand? But he had made this metal wrist, and that's how he started his nail, and he finished it with his left hand. And he was a sweetheart. He actually came and lived with us after we were married for a while here in Velva. And on the 4th of July, Grandpa Hansen would allow himself a beer. He wasn't a drinker, but he had to have a beer on the 4th. And Orland would tell about how him and Grandpa would go and hide behind the barn there so they could have their beer on the 4th of July. I think that's funny. Orland and his grandpa sneaking a beer behind grandpa's back. Well, Orland came home on leave one Sunday, and the next Sunday we were married. We had a nice, what we considered a big wedding, lots of people and lots of food and a nice dress, and we were married, and then he had to go back to Seattle, and then he went back there and found a place for us to live. And then I went out there about a month later. I moved out to Seattle then to be with him. And his ship was a destroyer escort. So it would be out for about 2 or 3 weeks at a time, and then it would be back for 2 weeks. And we ended up in Navy housing out there. And the people next door to us had 4 children, and the ones up above had 2. And I ended up being the 5th kid. And so I would be out playing with the kids all the time. Well, we didn't have a car then either, so then whenever they needed a babysitter, I babysat with the kids. And then when they'd go to the commissary or wherever, they'd take me along or see if they kind of looked out after me, and I looked out after their kids. But we moved back to Velva then, and Orland got a job out at the coal docks, I guess you'd call it. He was in the office out there, and he started working for the Farmers Union and ended up going to manager school, and that's all he did. The rest of his life was manage at the different co-ops. We were in Howard, South Dakota for a while, and then all the rest were in Velva. His heart belonged to Velva. He liked the hunting around here and the fishing, and of course we had Strawberry Lake, our cabin at the lake. We bought the one next to Mom and Dad's that was my Aunt Lil's original cabin. When we got our own place out there, it was pretty special, and we really enjoyed. We were out there many years and really enjoyed every year we had. So, well, these are all different family pictures. Got everything in here, so this is really a family book. It's got everything, Here's my sisters and I playing our saxophones. There's a granddaughter in here too, so. We had some friends that lived in Arizona, and we visited them a couple different times. So we bought what they call a park model down there, which is a kind of basically a trailer house. And then a lot of them had Arizona rooms, they called, on alongside of them. So ours had an Arizona room on it. And so we bought that in a park there, and moved down there, and we lived down there for 18 winters. We went to Arizona every winter and met a lot of great people and had a lot of good times. Got involved with the North Dakota picnic, which was a big deal down there. It got huge crowds for that. I went swimming every morning, and Orland got into doing leather work. He also went into wood carving. So I got a lot of his wood carving stuff, and different ones have gotten some of it. So we both kept really busy down there, and then we were active in the club, and we'd serve breakfast every other week for probably 120, 150 people. And it was a smaller court, but it was, you got more involved in a smaller court and everything, I think, than you do in the bigger one. And we were down there for 18 winters, and then I think Orland knew his health was getting bad, and of course I didn't notice it because I always thought he looked great to me. And so we sold our place down there, and then we came home, and then he died that fall. So, not that fall, that spring. So I guess he knew what he was thinking about when he wanted us to get settled in back here in North Dakota. Well, after Orland got out of the service, we moved back to Velva. And then I finally got pregnant, which was pretty exciting for us, because I was beginning to think it wasn't going to happen, because we'd been married too long. I remember the morning Janie was born, and I woke up Orland, and I told him I think I need to go to the hospital. And he got up and got dressed, and he said, I thought it would be more wild or something around here. He just couldn't believe how calm we both were. But so we got to the hospital, and she was born then, and it was We were pretty excited to have our child, and it ended up to be our only child. But I said, if you get perfection first, you might as well stop then, you know. That's what I like to think anyway. She was kind of a fussy baby, but my mother said not near as fussy as I was, so she said I still wasn't getting the full payback. Orland's folks came in and lived with us, and they were not well, and then we ended up with Orland's grandpa there. So Janie had grandma and grandpa in the backyard, and a great-great-grandpa in the basement of our apartment. For Janie, with all these grandparents, you know, I'd like to think that she wasn't spoiled, but she probably was a little bit. But it was pretty nice for all the way around for everybody, I think. Anyway, that's where we stayed back here in Velva, and then she went on to high school here and did all the things that we weren't supposed to know about, and probably some we didn't, but she survived and we survived. So she graduated, she went on to college and got her degree. And well, I think she wanted to get married because she wanted a baby and knew her mother wanted her to be married before she had a baby. So, but anyway, we got Molly out of the deal, and that we really got the best deal of it. When we found out we were going to be a grandma, was probably almost more exciting than when I got my diamond. I mean, it was just, you know, I don't know, being a grandma seemed to be special because I guess our grandma was so special that we were pretty excited to become grandma and grandpa. I think Orland was just as excited as I was. So we finally got our little baby girl. We tried to spoil her, but we don't think she was too spoiled, but that's just our opinion. When we finally had you, we just thought we were the king and queen of the whole world. We've tried to live like Dad, well, to start with, within our means, to treat other people like you want them to treat you, and to just enjoy life and enjoy your time and be friends with everybody, no matter rich or poor. You know, we had such a variety of friends, and they're all special. And I don't know, I think your dad and I had a life that was just wonderful. I think there's only a couple of times that we even got into a little disagreement, but I never would go to sleep mad. So I remember I had your dad awake a couple nights there until about 3 a.m, till we could be smiling big before we went to sleep. Because my dad always said, don't ever go to sleep when you're arguing. You gotta make up before you go to sleep. That was my dad's, one of his advices that I always took very seriously. And it worked for us, so I hope you take it that way and it works for you guys too. I don't know, I didn't really get any advice, Molly, but I think that knowing that everybody approves of Wayne and his family, and I just think you two are going to make a wonderful couple and be true to yourself and each other and live happily ever after, I guess. Just like a fairy tale. That's how I feel my life's kind of been. So hopefully yours will too.
We got into my door, and anyway,
Well, you got 2 new ones?
on the floor because they couldn't get out, or because when I got into Minneapolis from the smart.
An extra block away.
Well, sure, so you walk.
Yeah.